You've stumbled into another nostalgic void, drifting, searching with your rose-colored glasses. Fear not. What an Oddcast is here to guide you, with hosts Jared Minikheim, Anthony Denny, Michael Kennedy. Stay odd and hold on tight.
Welcome back to What an Oddcast, episode 258. I'm your intro man, Michael Kennedy.
I'm the one staring at the screen, Anthony Denny.
I'm Jared Minikheim. So yeah, hi guys, everybody. Welcome to the show. We did a musical May. Anthony walked us through Cats last week, and that was an experience. I learned things that I didn't know.
I saw so many bulges over the years.
Not necessarily that I needed to know, but anyway.
It's not like it was that. It was super informative, but also goddamn, never again.
Well, something similar will going on today. I had a little something that I had cooked up, and then Anthony's presentation made me go through and kind of rework how I had it laid out, because I was like, Anthony put way too much work into it.
Jared,
and if I just come in and I'm clicking and it's like, slide, looks really lazy, so I gotta do more with this.
Yeah, Jared saw my work and was like, you know what? Pieces of paper aren't going to handle.
Speaking of pieces of paper, Anthony, can you do me a favor?
No.
Can you hand me that book back, because I can't quite reach it with this HDMI cord, and I forgot to grab it. Because I'm dumb. Thank you. I was more worried about making sure it was set up right. So,
Pardon Hunter upstairs. He is mad.
he's a mad boy. But, we're all mad boys sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have a little thing here. Originally, I was calling it, like, the journey of history through metal, things of that nature.
That would have been an awful name.
Yeah, so I just have it as Journey Through Metal, as you guys see there. It's really just more like just things that I know that have happened over the course of history, and it covers over a little bit everything from how it started and whatnot. And I just figured I just run through it and get it out of my system. So
Now, next time, you should pass names by us, because I got a great name for this.
What is it?
Forged. How metal was forged.
I'll probably steal that for the actual title. I didn't have anything for an actual title. I usually don't until we do the episode. But yeah, so this is that is what this is. A bit new with this thing Anthony has me doing, where I'm on a presenter screen. I assume it works. I just hit it and it just does its thing. Okay. So we have our journey through metal, time traveling, whatever you want to call it here. There's many different kinds of metal. Anthony, do you happen to know any of the genres of metal?
Yes, there's pure metal. There are alloys, which is typically a mixture of two different metals.
Not that kind of metal. Metal music.
Oh,
genres of metal music.
Of course, there's new metal. There's old metal. There's tarnished metal. There's.
Okay, so anyway, I was hoping he would actually have something.
No, you got metal and new metal for me. That's all I know by name.
I mean, that's fair. There is new metal.
And it's spelled N-U because they have.
Yes, it is spelled N-U. It is one of those stupid fucking things they spelled it. But yeah, there is new metal. That was in the 90s, and that was something that there's bands that started as new metal that as the 90s progressed on, because like Linkin Park, for example, we'll get to them when we get there, but like they're another one, like started there with their first two, and then if you look at like their later albums, the sound that they had completely fucking changed. And that was a lot of the bands that came out of that, was like going from like this energetic, like angry, angsty, to then just being like, you know what, I was actually a theater kid, so like I kind of want to experiment with other things here, and they got like more melodic and chilled out as they got.
If you want another great example of band that started out metal and then did not, Sugar Ray. That I'm not even joking. Mean Machine.
I was gonna say Kid Rock, who started in metal
and started as metal and then became bad. But come on, I as much as I love the trash on Kid Rock as a person, Bops at the Wall, the Bang the Bang, Boogie 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 Up Chuck the Boogie, great line of music.
Great line. So there's thrash metal. So that's things like Metallica, Anthrax, and Slayer are the big four of thrash metal. You got speed metal with bands like Annihilator and Stone Warrior. You got power metal with people know Sabaton. They get memed all the time. They're a big one at that. There's also Manowar Dragon Force is part of what's considered power metal. You got death metal, which is like Cannibal Corpse, Behemoth are bigger names than that one. Needless to say, there's hundreds of fucking genres. I was originally gonna have like the bigger branches, until I realized even the bigger branches are fucking way more than I want to fucking write down and try to go through. Because it just any fan of any genre of music has made some type of metal to fit said genre. Like even reggae has like reggae metal. Just because some dude knew how to play it and then was like, I'm really into things like Slayer, so let's combine the two, and you get just random
So there's a lot of
shit.
metals that are just a mixture of two different music genres.
Yeah. So yeah, there's tons of things. But of course, there are the modern things that we try to avoid, like our beloved JoJo Siwa. But enough of JoJo.
Is that a Jared original?
Yes, actually. It's actually used on our YouTube for when we did our JoJo bit. I had her verses and I had like Obi-Wan. I had like a whole thing going. Anyway, so to start this off, we must go back before.
Jared, I love you. I can count the pixels.
Oh, it's not great. It's not. It's not great. But no, we're gonna go back before metal. We're gonna go back to like 40-50 era. That mainly because some of the people who were born, who would later make
19?
what metal is, were born in the late 40s, early 50s.
If you want sound to play, you have to click the little.
Do what?
There's a nothing.
Oh yeah, no. I don't. I originally had sound, and then I was like, it's too much work to try to get that to work anyway. So I just didn't. But anyway. So you had things, your basic music was like your blues and jazz were like big swing, even like, as I have on there, like Frank Sinatra, like your lounge music singers. That was all like, that was like popular. That was just the thing back then.
The Rat Pack.
And there was also another who was born in this time, and I only bring him up because I share a birthday with him. And that is the...
Justin Bieber?
The late, great Ronnie James Dio was born in the late 40s, if I remember right. I shared a birthday with him, which was something I learned in high school, and I was always like, oh, neat. Anyway, we'll get to Dio when we get to Dio.
I love the animation.
So now, after you get through all that, to put how this is going to go, you go into the 60s, right? And you got like the Beatles, Rolling Stones.
Never heard of them.
The British music invasion, something Anthony learned about.
You mean those guys that Paul Rudd, Jack Black...
It's a good fucking bit. It's a good bit, Anthony. Walk hard. Goddamn. Let's skip this and watch that instead.
Some of the other things you have going on in the 60s and the early 70s there, you have things like Cream, you got some Deep Purple, and of course you got Jimi Hendrix. Like, of course I'm going to mention him just because the guitar playing he had influenced a shit ton of people. Whether you're rock or metal, whatever it was, they got influenced somewhere out of this era.
My favorite fact about Jimi Hendrix is he was a left player who did not strum his guitar to be left-handed. He played a right-handed guitar left-handed.
That is correct.
So imagine how good he could have been if he cared.
Dio, get out of here. We're not talking about Dio yet. I said we would get to you when we get to you. He popped up because technically he sang for Deep Purple back in like the 60s. Before he was with Sabbath, where most people knew he started, he actually sang with Deep Purple beforehand.
Is that him in the...
Just a neat little... So now we get into the early 70s. We're getting into the 70s. Now, all those kids that were born in the 50s and 60s, right? So what happened in the late 40s? World War II ended, right?
I think it was early 40s.
Okay, sorry,
yes.
Early to mid 40s. World War II. Across, I'm talking like content, like internationally. So like 45, right? Like 43, 45, all that stuff kind of starts to die down, air out, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know when it ended. I think it was 41. I'm not sure. I don't know.
regardless, you get into those late 40s, early 50s. Well, the big thing that started happening is everyone had factories and industries. That just became the thing. Like, that was the job. You go here, do whatever. Black Sabbath came to be because these were guys who grew up in London during that era, where it was like they watched their parents go to a factory, their uncles, their grandmothers, everybody, and just die in these fucking factories, and no one giving a shit. So by the time they got into their late teens, the choice was, all right, well, do you want to go be a bartender here? And, like, maybe you'll do something, or you can go to the factory with everyone else, like what everyone is doing. And, you know, just, like, maybe you'll see your 30th birthday. Maybe. So these guys did the opposite. They're like, you know what? I don't want to do that. They become musicians, you know?
Opposite of factory worker, musicians. What does Black Sabbath mean?
Good question. I didn't write that down because I just didn't want to get into, you know, I just had too much shit I was already writing
Jared,
down.
you were feeding me these questions on these note cards to ask me to even get them. I wish I had some real note cards just to throw dramatically to them.
So, for note, a big inspiration to what ended up becoming what like Black Sabbath sound would be, some big inspirations, as I said, were like Cream, Jimi Hendrix, but there was also Led Zeppelin 2, which came out in 1969 in October. The reason this is cited as a thing for metal was that they used a heavier sound that hadn't been heard before, and it's considered a like cornerstone to what the metal music would become by taking the same sounds that they were using and repurposing them in their own.
Because what is metal but heavy rock?
That's fair, Anthony. So anyway, January 1970, the boys get together and they form Black Sabbath, and they're doing their goddamn thing. They're playing their fucking hearts out. These you know, young long-haired kids that nobody's taking seriously, because why the fuck would you? So yeah, so 1968 they form, they start doing gigs. 70 is when they make their album. They give it to a couple local radios, and people can't believe what the fuck they're hearing. Which, I know to a lot of younger viewers now, if you go look up Sabbath, and you like Black Sabbath, and you listen to some of that earlier stuff, you're like, I don't get what's so big about it. What's so big about it is nobody was doing the shit they were doing.
It's kind of like...
The sound that they had was unique. The guitarist for Black Sabbath actually had stabbed an amp at one point during, like, during a band practice. He just started stabbing his amp. And he went to draw a chord, and it drew out the Iron Man low tone. And that is what spawned their entire thing, was like, oh, that's a neat sound. And then enters distortion distortion guitars became a thing because of this, because everybody wanted that same low beating tone.
It's kind of like the Beatles, where the Beatles, were they a good band? Yes. Were they a great band? No. But they were a band where women were first allowed to be horny, so they became phenomenally famous.
That is very fair. So yeah, they make their album, they get big in the late, the 68 through 69 in the UK, and then 1970 they come over, they're introduced to the US with their records. And again, it's the same it became, I call this era, going into the 70s, the second British wave music invasion, because you had the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, all these people that came from the British invasion the first time. And then you go to the 70s and you get another just shit ton of British bands coming in that are creating another genre that people are going nuts for.
Now, Jared, I hate to argue with you, which is a lie. I love arguing with you. I feel like the second British invasion happened during World War II on the beaches of...
You know what, Anthony?
You'd actually be wrong. Pretty sure that would be the third.
So 1974.
The first British invasion is when they came over here. The natives out.
You're actually, yeah. There's a lot of British invasions.
Yeah, I think you might need to retally. Let's go ahead and pause that retally. We got
get the wikis.
We got the Revolutionary, technically the French and Indian, the War of 1812. There's three right there, and we're not even out of the 1700s yet. We haven't even made it to whatever Beatles time was.
I love music.
Also, were the Beatles before or after World War II?
They were after. Yeah.
So
Vietnam.
They were like literally.
Right. So like that didn't even make sense in yours.
No.
It didn't.
No.
Because chronologically you fucked that up. That's why I went.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
That's why I went there, bud. Like
the Beatles like out right
listen,
before World War II.
I think. Could you imagine Paul and them singing this shit as D-Day is happening? All you need is love.
Is not.
And I was in Normandy. The Germans are singing it in German. That's how they fucked up. That's how
the medics.
That's how the Turing machine was figured out. They used the Beatles as
That
the
was
code.
their code word.
Yeah, it was, "Hey
There's
Jude,"
medics in
'cause
the bay
you
just
can't-
healing people. Can't.
Well, you gotta be careful because we can't. You're gonna have to bleep all of this out. By the way,
They're very
I
copyright
just
happy.
want
they
to
are.
like you have to bleep everything we've ever done.
You know it's because Ringo wasn't born yet. That's why Ringo Starkey could have Richard Starkey himself could have ended World War II by himself.
So you have to bleep almost everything out.
I'm aware. Thank God they're separate. Definitely, we're definitely bleeping that. So yeah, 1970 saw Black Sabbath breach their thing. 1974 comes around and we get Judas Priest, which I have to say, Judas Priest in its early conception of 74, completely fucking different from anything anybody would know as Priest now. They were not leather bound. They were not like super hardcore metal-y. Like, no, they were very much like just a harder rock band, almost like a harder Led Zeppelin. They were completely different from what we see them now.
I know we moved on from Black Sabbath.
Well, go ahead.
Can you name some songs in case people listening don't know any
Oh,
Black Sabbath
most
songs?
definitely, Anthony. For Black Sabbath, you got Fairies Wear Boots, you got NIB, you have War Pigs is like the ones that people know the most would be War Pigs, Iron Man, Paranoid. You've also got Rat Salad, you got Electric Funeral. There's plenty to go on with Sabbath.
I just thought.
I can put on a Black Sabbath album start to finish. I'm golden. Yeah, no, I'm good. But yeah, no, there was that. Sabbath came out as Sabbath came out, then Iron. Jesus Christ, Anthony, you fucked me all up. Sorry, Judas Priest came out second. After Judas Priest, you get the next band in this form, which is Motorhead. Which Motorhead became more iconic, I would say later on, because of their lead singer, the I would say handlebar mustache, not the best looking man, you might say. He's very like he was very much I'll fucking beat your ass because like you bad spoke me, and that was his whole attitude.
1970s, so I'm sure handlebar mustaches were in.
But no, so Lemmy was somebody who was with a whole bunch of bands. If I remember right, it's like Iron Butterfly in the late 60s, early 70s. He was a part of them. He was a big party guy and would get kicked out of bands a lot because he didn't want to leave the bars. He didn't want to leave the crowds, the after shows and whatnot.
Alcoholic.
He was the guy. He was literally the guy that would like bring the huge pack of beer and be like, "All right, where's this party happening? Let's go. Let's kick it in." And he became too much. People kicked him out. Kind of told him, "You'll never get anywhere." Long story short, Motorhead's formed. And yeah, they come in just beers in hand and kick in the fucking door, basically. Then Lemmy's whole attitude can therefore forever after was very much, I don't give a shit what your opinion is. This is what we do. Go fuck yourself.
You know, Jared, if we paid for the Microsoft Office, we would get even more extreme animations.
I did what I could. Now the one that I feel is more digestible out of all of them for people is usually Iron Maiden for people. For whatever reason, because I know people that they're not super into metal at all, but Iron Maiden tends to be something that most people are just like, oh yeah, I could listen to Maiden, like Run to the Hills, 2 Minutes to Midnight, things like that, Afraid of the Dark, Fear of the Dark. People tend to just go to Iron Maiden because they're a bit more mellow, I would say, compared to the others. But they didn't come around until 1980, surprising. They were the last of them all. And they were, those guys. We're going to skip this one because, again, it just, I had a whole thing planned.
Music and animation is very hard.
It is. And,
also
you made it look
copyright.
so fucking easy. Yeah, we also don't get fucking paid. So,
Jared, you know how I made it so easy with that one sound of animation? I had 4 slides.
That's stacked on stacked.
So, that, we've talked about the music going on in the 70s. Cream, you were Deep Purple, The Sabbath, the Iron Maiden, you had Led Zeppelin.
Jefferson Starship or Airplane or Starship, whichever one it is at the time.
REO Speedwagon, things of this nature. But what were some of the other music that was going on at that time?
I don't know, Jared. Why don't you tell us?
Well, I think we're doing the Ramones, the Misfits, and Iggy Stardust.
That would be correct, Anthony. You had
I guess it would help if I looked at the screen, huh?
Not
just to wander off into space until something funny pops in my head.
And for clarification, everything that I have in here, these especially, all three of these I do listen to. Ziggy Stardust came out. He made his debut in the 70s before reverting to David Bowie. But Ziggy Stardust is one of those ones where he was over the top creative with the things he wanted to do and was shunned out by a lot of producers because they thought his ideas were fucking wild and no one would want to listen to it.
And were they wrong?
I'd say so, considering that how many times have you heard Starman on something? That Ziggy Stardust from the fucking 70s.
That's the only song that I can think of that I... And it's
Ziggy
honestly only
Major Tom to
because
Ground
recently,
Control.
the Buzz Lightyear movie.
Suffragette City.
Were all those Ziggy?
Yeah.
I thought that was still Bowie.
No, a lot of that stuff that was like his hits now, a lot of those were like things that he did as Ziggy Stardust, and he covered as David Bowie later on and people associated, but like he made it as Ziggy. That was like his whole start.
I really like, not to get trans.
Oh, no, go for it.
But I have some of, I have David Bowie obviously on my phone when I listen to music.
Yeah.
Broad
It's
range.
good shit.
Broad range. On his last album, he did a song called Black Star.
Yes.
Now, Black Star, a great song. Everyone should listen to it.
Yes. It's very sad.
It's called Black Star, but it's just a black star. That's what it's called. That's like the
I was going to say, do you know why he called it Black Star?
Because you like buttholes?
Aleister Crowley.
Ah.
Yeah, the whole, like, I'll live forever if I do thing. Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie, he was also super into magic in that same exact sense. The man lived off peppers and cigarettes for, like, years in the 70s because he thought Jimmy Page put a hex on him.
He's a homo superior.
And he also kept a jar of Jimmy Page's pee in his fridge because he thought, again, Page had put a hex on him, and by keeping so, it kept the hex from hurting him.
Yeah.
They were both super into the stuff. So anyway, that was something. You also had punk coming to be, so you had things like the Ramones, a lot of bands
what I
like
like
that.
About you.
53rd and 3rd. God, I'm questioningly.
You're getting what I like about you out of me.
Okay, whatever. And then there's also the Misfits, which were also punk, but they also inspired, much like Alice Cooper would do, with like the whole having like almost like a horror theme in your getup as well. But instead of rock, like what Alice Cooper is doing, Misfits were punk rock. So it same thing, but it also inspired a lot of metal and things that would come later.
Yeah, the Misfits, they're that one that has that skull for their logo, that classic rap.
The one
skull.
that almost every metalhead I've ever met has a tattoo of, and I refuse.
The train with the square wheels.
I refuse to
The Josh in the
get it.
box.
The plane that swims.
The plane that swims. The water gun that squirts jelly.
Ah, yes.
So now, as I was saying,
And
you know,
King Aslan. Which is a real thing.
Yep.
Which is a real thing. And like
Every Rakin Baskin needs that fucking weird acid trip scene.
so now,
Jared, I have a question.
Yeah.
What does any of this have to do with the 90s?
metal music in the 80s and 90s?
I'm dyslexic, I'm sorry.
That's right, Anthony. Everything we see here has everything to do with everything in the universe.
Including
I'm
David
just
Bowie's
kidding.
bulge.
The theatrics of David Bowie mixed with the theatrics of the Misfits, and then you combine that with just the general rock sound going into your 80s, because even in the late 70s you get Van Halen, for fuck's sake. Like, there are plenty of big rock bands that come out going into the 80s.
Startled me so much.
But that also brings up a good point, Anthony. First off,
Who's that?
just a random.
Anyway.
So,
What are these corpses?
getting into the late 70s, as I said, Van Halen becomes a thing. You start seeing more, like, hair bands that come out.
Hair metal.
Yeah, you know, like Motley Crue, Poison,
Bon
Guns N'
Jovi.
Roses, Bon Jovi, things like that start to become a thing. And they gain more popularity than things like Sabbath. And now a big factor into this for Sabbath, unfortunately, was 1977, Black Sabbath fired Ozzy because, much like Lemmy, Ozzy didn't know how to not fucking party at any fucking point. He was just non-fucking stop go. And it drove a wedge in the band of, like, you got a fucking cooler to go. And he was let go.
Because he's a fucking freak.
Which, come to play, Ronnie James Dio. He gets hired into Black Sabbath. And they end up having a whole bunch of albums with Dio. A lot of people don't even know Ozzy was with Black Sabbath, believe it or not. Some people only know the Dio Sabbath because they both have had a huge category of music. And there's also a divide in there. People who prefer Dio over Ozzy, there's people who prefer either or. I don't mind either one. I think they're both great people.
That happens with any time someone's replaced. I mean, to this day, I still remember how Mr. Salisbury only referred to Van Halen after a certain time as Van Hagar. Because, for those not listening, Sammy Hagar replaced Eddie Van Halen in that band.
Yes, he did.
And he brought us Jump.
So now, when this happened, in the music world, there's, I like to call it a parallel of music, no matter what genre, always has some kind of drama that's going on. It could be pop music, country music, it doesn't fucking matter. There's always fucking something. It's
with
people.
Beatles.
In this aftermath, it was people thinking Ozzy was washed up. He wouldn't fucking do anything. Like, Black Sabbath was so fucking huge at this point. It was very much like, well, he's fucked. Like, that band is like one of the biggest bands right now. He's going nowhere. Just to turn around 1981, Ozzy goes off and says, fuck you, I'm going solo. You can see him in his little get-up with his cape.
Is this before he ate the bat?
Yeah, technically it would be before he ate the bat.
I'm gonna eat this whole sandwich.
So,
That's enough of that.
So Ozzy goes solo. He goes out on his debut album, Blizzard of Oz, which, for music as a whole, Ozzy's solo career changed the fucking game as far as how your guitar solos were gonna be, how catchy things were gonna be. You know why, Anthony? I bet you can name one fucking song that's on Blizzard of Oz. I guarantee it. Name me an Ozzy song that's most you've ever heard.
Most I've ever heard.
Yes.
Sure, you want to play this game?
Sure.
All right.
And I mean, like, seriously, one you've heard a million fucking
it's
times.
Crazy Train. Everyone's Crazy Train.
Yeah, that came on. I know you were gonna go with something fucking obscure. I know you were.
I was going through the file in my head.
I can see it. Like, you son of a bitch.
Ordinary Man.
Yeah, see, that's a later album. But no, like Crazy Train. It was on this fucking album. It exploded Ozzy's career. But it wasn't just Ozzy. People already knew Ozzy's vocals, obviously. A lot of this had to do with the young fucking guitarist he found named Randy Rhoads, who made that man's career, and Ozzy even...
The Road Warrior.
God damn it.
Go back in time and give people cool nicknames.
I know, right?
So...
I call it The Rock.
Ozzy has even stated many a time that his career wouldn't have happened if he didn't have Randy by his side, because Randy came up with all the catchy guitar shit. Like, everything that made those songs big, he was like, Randy was the reason. He would just come to me with, hey, I've thought of this really neat riff, and he would just play it for me, and that's how the albums were made. He also worked with him on Diary of a Madman, which is also, I love that fucking album too. The signature track, Diary of a Madman, is fucking fantastic. Sorry. We're going to skip ahead just a moment, because this is another album that was a game changer for a band, and also their sound. So we go to 1980, because British Steel comes out from Judas Priest here. And this is another thing where they just changed what was fucking cool, and I don't know how to describe that, because this is where they debuted We're Leather Daddy Bad Boys Who Ride Fucking Motorcycles. And the lead singer, as much as he couldn't come out, has always 100% been fully fucking gay.
I was about to say, this is...
Yeah, he has always been gay, so this whole thing was... I've heard him describe it as... This was my way of, like, I couldn't come out as a gay man, but I got it one back on all the straight guys because I had everyone wearing fucking tight-ass leather the entire run of the 80s just because I looked good doing it. And that was his, like, yeah, I can't say I'm gay and you all want to make... Well, fuck you. Look at that. Now you're wearing what I wear. Mm-hmm. It was like his fuck you to them, which, good on him. Also, British Steel, amazing fucking album. That's where you get Breaking the Law and shit. Like, oh, yeah. Like, that album's fucking great.
Big ass rides you played.
Now, as we get into the 80s, we get in what I had said before, the Big Four, or aka thrash metal. This was combining everything that had been happening metal-wise. So in the early days when Sabbath, Priest, Iron Maiden were first coming out, things were very slow. You had like your 7-8 minute songs. They were very like theatrical. As things progressed, the reason I say Ozzy's solo album changed it is because it changed up the game from making really long songs that are intricate to make really awesome solos, bang in the choruses, and like just ring that shit, tighten it up to like a 3-4 minute thing. And that is where music started to go in that sense. And that is where we get our first Big Four, which is Anthrax. They're my least favorite of the Big Four. That's nothing against anyone who likes them. They're not
Everyone has
my typical kind. But they were the first one of the Big Four.
Named after a chemical.
That will never be problematic in the future.
No.
Never.
Dude, we should call our band ISIS. What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
So 1982. This is what I call the first of the 80s tragedies. So we had talked about Randy Rhoads. He was an excellent guitar player, made Ozzy's career.
Rest in peace, Road Warrior. Never won the belt.
Peace.
He couldn't take it from Mad Max.
So,
Just getting more.
March of 1982, Ozzy was on tour. Ozzy was on tour for Diary of a Madman. They were, going crazy those first 2 years with his solo. Unfortunately, in this, on March 18th, the bus had to make a stop. They're on the road. They find a place that I think it was if I remember right, it's like Ozzy's mutual friend. It's like a bed and breakfast that also has like a plane area where they give like flying lessons and things. Yeah, it was just one of those. It was the only place they could stay because, in case you didn't know, in the early 80s, Ozzy got a lot of shit from people, like, Christian protesters and shit, just because he was fucking Ozzy, and he was like, I'm the Prince of Darkness. And they're like, yeah, no, we can't have that around here. So at this point, he just had a lot of issues when he went down south because he would run into all the religious people. So trying to find a place to stay was a pain in the ass. Unfortunately,
what would Jesus do? Come on.
And as we stated, Ozzy was a huge partier. Tour bus driver Andrew Aycock, he ends up taking a F-35 Beechcraft plane because he had a piloting license, and he's like, we're gonna be here for a couple days. Like, I'm gonna fuck around. So he does that. And he takes a couple flights there. He takes Don Airey, the keyboardist, and manager Jake Duncan. Does like a small flight with him. During this small flight, he had buzzed the bus. So he had flown down real low, shook the bus up, and was like, haha, isn't that funny? Did that twice. Lands the plane back down. Now, Rachel Youngblood, who is their makeup artist, she's like, I kind of want to go on the plane, but I'm really afraid to go up there. Randy Rhoads goes, hey, fuck it, I'll go with you. Like, I'm not afraid of some big dumb fucking plane, like, whatever. So they go up, and they're going to get a plane ride. He makes 2 successful buzzes on the bus, right? Does it, no problem. Goes back in for a third time. There was a photo captured of Randy in the plane looking like he was fighting for control of the plane. Before the plane was tilted sideways, the wing smashed into the bus, and then the plane proceeded to crash into the garage and explode into a fiery cataclysm of fucking ball of fire. It was then revealed that the bus driver apparently had some issues in his marriage. The ex-wife was on tour with them because they were a thing with the bus driving company. And basically he was buzzing the bus just to get back at her because she was sleeping on it. And then Randy Rhoads wanted to because he's like, oh, Ozzy's trying to sleep off his hangover. It'd be funny. But yeah, that is how that went down. The plane crashed, killed Randy and Rachel both immediately, and the bus driver. And with that, Ozzy was very like, I think I'm just done. Like, I just watched a man burst into fucking flames trying to fuck with me. Like, I think I'm done musically.
And he never made another song ever again.
Well, you would think so. But Ozzy does continue. Which is a lot of inspiration from Sharon Osbourne. She was the one who always pushed him to like, hey, this is what you do. You're fucking good at what you do. You don't need to give up what you do.
The man's Johnson.
So he does end up making Bark at the Moon.
Fucking boobs. Boobs.
Boobs, Ozzy.
Fucking boobs.
Now, when can
Doing
people
the
stop
same
understanding it?
dick joke.
That would come to about the 90s. That's when all the drugs really started to catch up to him. So he had, I forgot to write down his name, but he had a guitarist step in for a while. But then he ends up getting sent an audition tape from a young man named Zach Wilde.
Great name for a musician.
Which is this young guy. And
Oh my god, I thought that was Sharon Osbourne for a second.
Ozzy has stated that when he met Zach, that it gave him the same exact energy that Randy always gave him. And he's like, I saw the audition tape. He had the same play style. He had that same energetic energy. And then getting to meet him, it was a different friendship than what me and Randy had, but he had that same drive musically that I needed to keep going in what I was doing. And also, Zach Wilde is also just a metal legend in his own right. He's an amazing guitar player. Fantastic. If you want to ever see Zach Wilde, if you watch Sons of Anarchy, he's actually in the biker gang, because he's also a very, very avid Harley Davidson owner.
Does he play Charlie Hunnam's dad?
No, he's just one of the crew. He had talked to the producer of that show, and he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm like a diehard motorcyclist." They were like, "Yeah, we'll get you in the show," and he just became part of the
Joke
cast.
there was that was Ron Perlman I was describing.
Yes, I know it was Ron Perlman. I've watched that show many times.
So I just have to mention this because if I don't, the worst is going to happen. If we talk about the curse never happens.
That's true.
Jerry, you're talking a lot about Ozzy Osbourne. He is not that young anymore.
Well, I mean, he's already retiring out. I think he just announced he's doing one last thing with
He's
Sabbath.
gonna die.
Yeah.
Well, he already he just
that's
announced.
A notification from X. Hang on.
Just-
What's going on?
He just announced
surfing.
he's only going to do one more show with Sabbath and then retire
no.
because he's done doing solo, and he wants one more time with Sabbath to just send off his entire thing. So it's coming anyway. So I just wanted to cover through that just because Ozzy was huge. Mr. Siegel in our school, me and Anthony, when we went to high school, our middle school principal, Mr. Siegel, was a fucking diehard Ozzy fan.
I did not know that.
Oh, dude. When I did the presentation in 8th grade about Slipknot, I had to ask him about Ozzy. That man
Guys,
bought
don't
me
worry, it was just a flaming hot Cheeto in the shape of Godzilla for $27,000.
I hate the world we live in.
He bought me a Tim Hortons coffee. We talked for like 30 minutes just about Ozzy Osbourne. Like I didn't know he was a diehard fan either, but like that man is super
it
into
was from
Ozzy.
him that I found out that the Jewish community, they have a different calendar.
Yeah, that's how they celebrate Jubilee.
I don't know if that's a joke or not.
I don't either.
I don't know enough about Jewish culture to know if that was a joke.
I don't either. I'm just not going to go.
Well, how else are they
So-
supposed to show Moses their soap sculptures?
Okay, yep, no.
Oh my god. So that's Ozzy. As I said, I just wanted to.
be here soon enough to put Moses in the rightful place. God.
I just wanted to make sure I covered over Ozzy to give him the respect he deserves for everything he's done musically.
And no, he didn't.
So now
really
we go
eat
back
bat.
a little bit. So 1982, the Randy Rhoads
No, the
things
sandwich.
happens. In 1983, as I have, metal never stays down. Because even in 82, when a lot of musicians were just very shook by what happened to Randy Rhoads, because, yeah, that was a freak fucking accident. Like, nobody in their right mind should die in a plane
You think
crash
he would
like
learn
that.
after the Big Bopper?
You think
Buddy
musicians would
Holly
just
and Richie
avoid
Valens.
planes. Like, but 1983, Metallica comes out. There are also the thrash. They're a bigger thrash band, but they release Kill 'Em All, and we got the original lineup with
Yo, I think I was at high school with 3 of those guys.
Mr. Salisbury in our high school. Funny enough, he told me a story of he actually met Metallica before the change that I'm about to bring up. And this is also the original lineup of Metallica, because we'll get into it right now. Young egos plus alcohol equals broken bands.
You think they would learn from the Beatles?
You would think that nobody does. No genre's original, all drama and things like this happening everywhere.
Don't drink
Anyway.
and drive, kids.
So in late
Or
1983,
We're not
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
lawyers.
Yeah.
So in late 1983, Kill 'Em All comes out,
Allegedly.
and Metallica end up parting ways with their founding lead guitarist Dave Mustaine.
Allegedly.
They part ways with Dave Mustaine, and that is, there's no good way to find out what happened. They're all very wish-wash, but it very much just sounds like they were all in their young 20s, again, partying all the time, and there was disagreements of who should do what.
They broke his heart.
And as I've said before, and Mike has given me shit, and I understand that I'm not a guitar player. However, Dave Mustaine also just has a huge ego. And he always has. And that's just evident from everything I've ever seen. Of like, because like, even now, he will take credit for things that Metallica did in the early days, and the other bandmates would be like, he wasn't even fucking a part of the band when that happened. I don't know what he's talking about.
It's called, you got to get that money, claim the fame.
So yeah, there's all the drinking, the partying, and just being, again, 19, 20-year-olds. Just nobody gives a shit at that age.
Jared, if you get rid of his head, you have yourself a great, like, high school photo for, like, dangers of drinking. With the fucking nuke coming out of the glass.
It is the dangers of drinking. So Dave Mustaine ended up telling him, and this is the thing, I'll go make my own band that's heavier than yours. Which was then responded with, that'll be a mega death to your career.
Oh, then he made Led Zeppelin.
Enter 1985, the summer of rage inspiration, when Megadeth, with Dave Mustaine, come out of the left fucking field with their own album, and he says, fuck Metallica, I don't need those motherfuckers, I'm the better guitar player. And that is literally how that happened.
You gotta love it.
It was literally just a thing of, you'll never make a band, and him just, Megadeth was formed.
Now that we're talking about Megadeth, I
yes.
hate their fucking logo right here.
Oh, you don't like that?
Why is the H so low?
I don't know. You'll have to ask Dave.
Where's his email?
But yeah, they come out with their first album.
Twitter.
Killing Is My Business Has Been, and Business Is Good was their first album. I like the things after this one. The albums they have come out after this are the albums I go for, like Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, are to me better albums. Just personally, because I also don't like the later stuff. I'll get into that. With the '90s was a weird time.
Jared, if you go to Megadeth.com, you can leave a message for Dave.
Oh, I will so fucking do that. Because I do appreciate he's a damn fucking good guitar player.
Darn.
So there's also King Diamond, who was also really big. He came out in 1985. Again, like an Alice Cooper thing, he just combined theatrics with the metal music he was doing a whole dress up and like a whole show as he was going on, which is another thing that would inspire other bands later on. Slipknot. But the 80s weren't without their controversies going into the 90s.
Yeah, Reagan.
There was that too.
No, look, he's the man of Christian American values, Dee Snider.
That is correct. That is Dee Snider. Why is Dee Snider on the screen? That is because 1985 music comes under attack. Why does it come under attack? That's because they feel that this is where the rating systems come in with your albums, where it's like, hey, this is an explicit warning on this record. Artists started coming out all over, from Dee Snider to Slayer, things like that. Everybody started coming out of the woodwork of like, you can tell us we can't make these albums, but in right, we have the creative freedom to make what we want, and people can buy what they want. It became a whole fucking thing, which was just a pushback on basically what they wanted to do was make it so they couldn't make the albums they were going to. What it ended up being is the explicit sticker on things now, and also the ability with places like Walmart being able to just edit the shit out of your album because they don't allow you to have certain words. Yeah. That's what came out of that, and that's what all the musicians were fighting. In the late 1985, we go into December and we get the darkest 1985 winter with Slayer's Black Magic. Yeah.
I mean, I hate to argue with Slayer, but I think every winter in 1985 was probably the darkest winter of 1985.
Oh, those are my words. Yeah, you can make fun of me.
All right, Jared, I hate to argue with you.
Yeah, I got it. But no, Black Magic was Slayer's first album. Most people know him for Rain and Blood, which was their second album, but Black Magic was the first. Also, in 1986, you get the most, I would argue, the most iconic metal album that was ever made, which is Metallica's Master of Puppets.
Got a lot of good ones. Master of Puppets.
Master of Puppets, Orion. Oh, God, what else is on that album?
I got
I'm drawing a blank too. I had it on top. Anyway, not important. The important part is this was a big, huge album. Everyone fucking knows songs off this goddamn album now. And as my father put it, who I asked for some input with this series, since I was covering over the era he grew up in, Master of Puppets was another album that changed what people were doing. Thank you. Battery opens it. This was the heaviest that the Big Four had gotten, because even Slayer's first album wasn't Slayer like you knew them. They just weren't quite there yet. Master of Puppets basically showed other metal bands, like, you can get heavier and people are still going to want to get into this shit. So then that's when you see Rain and Blood comes, things like that.
It was like that in real life. Man, heavier.
Unfortunately,
India.
I said we're in the wrong country.
I haven't been into anybody in
the 80s metal tragedy number 2 happens in 1986's Swedish tour bus crash, which is the most gruesome fucking thing that could ever happen to a man, and I feel so fucking bad.
Before we get into this really sad story, is this bus crash the reason why the Swedish have all those really dark corpse-painted music nowadays? Because they found the bus crash?
You know, Anthony, we'll actually get into some Norwegian things in the end. I covered over as much everything that I could think. So anyway, sorry, I'm looking at my notes, making sure I know where I'm at.
He doesn't.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So
You're
I
right.
said it.
So anyway, they were Metallica's touring in Sweden. They were going from point A to point B, one show to the next, and that's actually a picture of them in front of the bus on this tour, because they were just a young group of friends. The story goes, basically, Cliff Burton, their bassist, and Kirk Hammett, who replaced Dave Mustaine, they did their drinking, and then at the end of the night, they pulled cards, and it was whoever had the highest card got to pick their bunk. And there was the bunk up in the front of the bus near the bus driver, and there was the bunk in the back. Cliff won, and Cliff's like, you know what? I don't want to sleep with all you fuckers. I'll take the lone bed. So he took the bed that was closer to the front. As they were driving at night, they went up a road that is super dangerous, and it's not a good road, but it's just the main route kind of thing, the easiest way to get where they were going. The bus ended up hitting some black ice, fell off the road. The rest of the band recalls the whole thing as a blur, and just getting out of the bus, looking around, doing a head count, being like, I think we're all here, I think we're all good, I think we just have bumps and bruises. Until they shine the light on the bus, and as it was told, is that they saw Cliff Burton's boots from under the bus. And James Hetfield, the lead singer, lost his fucking mind, because that was his childhood best friend. And yeah, they essentially the way they said is it was a freak accident of just the right amount of momentum, that Cliff was flung out the window on the side where his bed was, and then the bus landed on him. And Kirk Hammett has even stated, like, it was a simple luck of the draw kind of thing. Unfortunately, he's like, if I had lost that night and taken that bed, I would have been in the same exact boat. And this really fucks the band up in more ways than one, for good reason.
I mean, yeah. By the way, the memorial stone is in Durop.
Yes.
I know I pushed that.
But Cliff Burton, he was an amazing bassist. I mean, fuck, Master of Puppets wouldn't have been what it was without him. They do end up replacing him with a guy from our home state here in Michigan.
My home.
Jared, all three of us have different home states.
The state we're in currently.
There we go.
Jason Newsted, who was from Battle Creek, he just auditioned for Metallica, and they needed a bassist. They hired him in.
He was living in Battle Creek. He's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know what's worse, singing in a metal band or being in Battle Creek.
Well, we know which one he picks.
Before I get into the next slide there, just with Jason Newsted, that's a whole nother horror show. They never got over the death of Cliff, and the record studio was basically like, you're under contract, we need more albums. They continued on, but they treated Jason Newsted like total dog shit, which is why he was only there for 2 albums, which would be And Justice for All, where it's criticized for having no bass, and that is simply because they tuned Jason Newsted like way the fuck down in the mixing.
You think it would be thematic because their person just died, like they lost a member.
That's really what it was. The band has come out in more recent times and been like, no, we were total fucking douchebags. Like, it was his dream to be in that band, and the first album he did with us, we just fucking tuned him out. We're like, we don't give a shit. Like, Cliff's dead, you're not Cliff, fuck you. And we made that album. And, like, looking in the back now, it's like, no, we were fucking pieces of shit.
See, I like it when musicians, like, when they get around their contracts, like, they had to, so they got someone to tune them out. Like, Prince. I found out about Prince, why he was known as the artist formerly known as Prince, because the music label had music from Prince. So he changed his name.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So he, formally known.
Yep, so he couldn't so he can make his own music.
And then we just cover over some stuff we've already talked on the show before. It's on an older episode. I had talked about it. But in the late 80s going into the 90s, Ozzy got sued over his song Suicide Solution because the kid killed himself after listening to the song repeatedly.
Well, he should,
that's not false advertisement.
he should have put for fish only on it.
Which, the thing is, as Ozzy stated, he gets why parents were mad with the song name. His meaning behind the song, however, was it was a literal song about his time before he went solo where he was drinking himself to death. So it was literally him dealing with alcoholism was Suicide Solution.
Yeah, it's like the song Rape Me. They didn't actually mean that.
No, they didn't. That was actually, if I remember right, that was just like a fuck you because they were told like a whole thing. Anyway, and Judas Priest also had a lawsuit around the same time because they had the song Better by You, Better Than Me, that also a kid killed himself to, and it was just like, you're putting subliminal messages in your records, and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Classic, you play an album backwards.
Yes, that is where this comes from. They played Judas Priest backwards. They're like, see, it's telling him to kill himself. And they're like, it's just a jumble of fucking words.
It just happens to sound like a k.
Yeah, it just happened to sound like what you wanted to, I guess.
You were
like it was
listening
confusing
for it, that's why you heard it.
So that's something we've already talked about. So yeah. What was big? What were all the big metal acts doing when we got into going into
Cocaine.
the 90s? I mean, cocaine, yes. As I said before, we had End Justice for All by Metallica. They also released the Black Album, which is the point in a Metallica fandom where you were still a fan or you fucking disown them because they changed. They were not. They changed the sound. They weren't as aggressive and heavy. This album had more ballads and more softer tone.
It's like someone died or something. Jesus.
Well, this is the second album after, but yeah. This has Enter Sandman, Unforgiven, or no, that's the next one. I think it's anyway. This is an album everyone knows mainly because of Enter Sandman. Also, during this time, as I had said before, with Slayer, you get your Rain and Blood, which was their biggest album. Unfortunately, they were never able to live up to that for some people, which, again, I don't fucking agree with. I think all three of these albums are a trifecta of fucking beauty when it comes to Slayer. Got Rain and Blood, South of Heaven, and Seasons in the Abyss, which Seasons in the Abyss, mwah, chef's kiss, a fucking amazing song.
Hey, Jared, I have a question.
Yes.
Why do all these guys have long hair?
Because that was just the thing. For they're just being in metal, there's just something about you just want a headbang, and it just works better if you have hair. It's my best analysis on that. And then continuing on, we also have Iron Maiden all through the 80s with just bangers, as I've said before. You got your Run to the Hills, you got the Number of the Beast, 2 Minutes to Midnight, they're just the Trooper, things like that all come out throughout the 80s, early 90s. Now we get into the 90s. Yeah, you love that 90s wallpaper.
Know that pattern.
So late 80s going into the 90s, as I kind of talked about before, you have things like the hair metal bands like Poison and Motley Crue and Bon Jovi.
Alice in Chains.
You also get your Guns N' Roses, who were just bigger than fucking anything. I get Guns N' Roses because of Slash's guitar playing, but Axl's vocals is where I'm just like, how did this get so popular? He's so high-pitched whiny. How the fuck? It has to be Slash.
I mean, no, they got some great things. I mean,
I enjoy the music, but like when I look at it compared to other things, I'm just like, he's so high pitched. Like, how the fuck?
Jared, that's like when I hear Bob Dylan, I still don't get Bob Dylan.
You know what? That's fair. Bob Dylan's another tough one to be like.
What? You understand Bob Dylan? Why he was popular?
Yeah.
Why?
It's Bob Dylan.
But why? I don't get it. I hear Bob Dylan. I'm like, I don't get this music.
It wasn't for you.
That's true.
It wasn't for you. You watch Watchmen and you don't get a little choked up at the beginning of that song.
If you don't, I'll punch you.
No, this is a Zack Snyder film. I feel nothing about it.
God.
It's not for you.
But there's also things, you get your rock, so like Smashing Pumpkins, and then grunge obviously become a thing in the 90s. I'd be an idiot if I didn't acknowledge grunge started with the 90s too.
Yeah, Homer Simpson made it.
Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Nirvana,
Sadgasm.
Pearl Jam.
I forgot about that.
So metal also evolved with the culture, because going into the 90s, in case anyone, you weren't born in the 90s or don't know, which is fair, there's younger people, whatever. There was just a lot of rage things going on. Like, there were just a lot of dumb shit going on. Like, you saw it in grunge. The youth was more of, like, a rebellious time, I would say. Best way I can put it. Bands like Pantera, who we did a whole series about. Not going to cover them. Pantera come out in the 1990s. You also get Limp Bizkit and Korn. Yes, Anthony. Laugh at the $3 bill, y'all.
I'll always laugh at fucking Limp Bizkit.
So, yeah. The 90s and early 2000s, as I said, Pantera. This album came out in 92, which, as I said, we did a whole series about it, but it's fucking Walk. The song Walk came from this fucking album. Another just huge fucking song that's everywhere.
I don't think I've ever
Moving
heard
it. Sometimes.
It's not everywhere.
I just realized Megadeth doesn't have an A in their name.
And as I had said before, I feel the Megadeth that was late 80s, early 90s is just underrated for me personally. I know people who hate Megadeth, and I always just say, rest in peace, peace sells, like Countdown to Extinction. Go to those albums.
It's kind of like the 90s Mustang, where it's like, what the fuck, but it's still a good Mustang.
But Metallica wasn't safe from this either. As much as Metallica was a huge and still is a stadium fucking selling international band, the 90s saw them also hit a shit ton of controversy. Why?
Why, Jared?
Drugs.
Who got killed?
Drugs.
Nobody got killed. However, everyone felt they sold out because they cut off all their fucking hair. And they also completely changed their sound to a more radio-friendly, less aggressive sound.
Wow.
Who did this?
Metallica.
Oh.
Man, I really call that
when you
fucking...
get Load and Unload, Load and Reload are two of the most shitted on albums, but they're fucking amazing albums.
I hope he enjoys them.
They really should.
I
listen
like
to
how
those ones.
they look like they would listen to Nickelback and a cowboy.
Yeah, right.
Going to the bottom.
Also, for anyone who wants to say that Load and Reload suck, Unforgiven and Unforgiven 2 came from those fucking albums. So you go fuck
Which
yourself.
one came on which?
Just go ahead and just swear some more.
But of course,
Chicken or the egg, my friend.
of course, going into the 80s and 90s, we also had hip hop and rap, right? There are also things that came into the culture, more popular genres.
Those are songs and things that happened.
It's
Jared.
because black people are allowed to be in culture now.
Metal also evolved with this, being that it's a cultural thing, which is where we get nu metal. It incorporates those elements into it. The biggest and the first one of them,
Evanescence.
you could argue Limp Bizkit because they came out a couple years before Korn. However, Limp Bizkit's first album bombed out, and they did not hit any success. However, Korn, on the other hand, they make a splash because, again,
it doesn't exist actually.
they're combining rap style vocals with
Did you see
the
that?
like the
There's
funkier
actually
hip hop
like
beats and
vegetables
doing
don't
things of
exist.
that nature.
I fucking love it so
Dude,
much.
you know what I haven't had forever?
What?
Cream corn.
It's fucking gross.
I used to eat that shit all the time.
You're
growing
fucking
up.
so white trash.
So good.
So fucking white trash.
Jared, opinion on corn?
No,
I like cream corn.
Cream corn?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, you love that when the corn cream's in your mouth?
Alex sent me the Snapchats I sent you with her just peas, just canned peas.
Yeah,
like,
what the fuck?
It's like the whitest, trashiest thing that. And then I was like, my mother would do that.
Send a picture of microwave peas in a bowl that she's eating with a fork. With a fork.
White trash.
Jared, you're looking around like you're doing
So
this. That makes you
Korn, so Korn starts
Jared,
new metal.
do you eat peas microwaved?
I mean, I have microwave vegetables
Fucking
when I'm in a
white.
hurry.
That's not what I said. Vegetables don't exist. So I said specifically, have you ever microwaved canned peas, put salt and pepper on them, and eaten them?
Just peas. Though.
Just peas.
Nothing else.
And
Oh,
not only
not
that,
with nothing
have
else,
you mushed
no.
them to create like a
No.
mashed potato consistency?
No, definitely
Okay.
not that.
Then you're
no.
not as white trash as other people we know. Go ahead and put this one on TikTok. She'll see it.
So yeah, 1994 they debut the self-titled album, which Korn in the 90s, as much as you can make fun of their name, like, they really were just something that was more unique. That they did start new metal. It started everything it became.
Why they call it corn?
Actually, I do know this one. They couldn't figure out a band name, and they had been writing them on a whiteboard. And then to this day, I don't believe they've ever figured out who did it. But somebody just wrote Korn with the weird K, and that just stuck.
It was clearly Matt Damon, like he does in that one movie.
Well, it was like the first album was coming out, and they're like, we need a fucking band name. Like, we can't just not have a band name. And then somebody did that, and they're like, fuck it. That works. So anyway, 1994 they debut. They also followed it up with Issues in 96. You get Follow the Leader in 98, and then 99 was immediately followed by Issues, which are all four for people, diehard Korn fans, these are the albums people will tell you to go to just because it is really good shit.
They should have doubled down and went with like Cobb, Korn, Eero.
Which I didn't make a slide for it, but I will mention Korn's another one that always tried to do something different. They even have a dubstep album that they did with Skrillex. It didn't do well, but they tried to do something different.
I hear that they've been on some cartoons too.
They have. Jonathan Dave has also voiced the singing for Queen of the Damned because they thought for whatever reason that would sell it. Bad movie.
Oh, this is that beautiful woman.
Yes, and this is the other thing. New metal with the 90s and early 2000s, as said Linkin Park. Evanescence was forced into this subgenre. She's talked about it before. With the Wake Me Up song, she's talked about before. She didn't...
Wake me up.
I don't know the song.
You had weeks to research, and you don't
Shut
know
up.
the one song that everyone knows.
I only know Wake Me Up, all
Jared's
right?
not allowed to present on anything ever again.
But she's talked about that song wasn't supposed to have the male vocals. It was supposed to be entirely different thing. She got forced into the new metal genre because of her own labels. Because that was the big fucking thing.
No, you should have listened up.
That's literally her statement.
Yeah, look
was
up,
they forced her to do it that way, and she didn't want to.
Look up "Wake Me Up" song.
Why don't you fuck yourself?
But the
Now I say that, but I'm not. I've been on my phone a majority of this time listening to Jared. I refuse to get on my phone to look up something.
But Anthony,
for him.
oh no, Anthony, it's Fred Durst.
Fred Durst
From what?
From Limp Bizkit.
Oh, okay.
The man who picks a fight. Fred Durst is the man.
Is he the guy from the Scooby Doo movie?
No,
No,
that's Sugar Ray. That's come, my lady, come,
No
be my
shit.
butterfly.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're my butterfly, sugar. Oh my God, Fred Durst! I would love to meet you, so I can not talk to you.
My only note, the reason I had him come up is because my note is that throughout the 90s and 2000s, like, he was just a douche to everyone coming up in music. Like, he would straight up just tell bands, "You're not gonna make it, you suck," and then they would outperform him.
The Carlos Mencia
He was just that
music.
guy.
Oh my God.
He really was. I don't know why. That's just how he sold himself.
Did we ever figure out if what Carlos Mencia did after we talked about him that one time? Because that's the one thing
He
that
just
like,
stole
you wish
jokes.
the curse would kick in sometimes, and it just fucking didn't. It now it won't this time either because we're talking about it. God damn it!
Yeah, he just stole jokes.
Sometime next week or 2 weeks, we gotta casually bring up Carlos Mencia. So
It's also due to Randy Newman.
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna covering over for the heavier side of things here. Other things that are in
One
my
goes the other
my
way.
repertoire. You got Mudvayne,
Lowered
Slipknot,
the bar real low.
Mushroomhead, also from that new metal wave.
Hey, who are those weirdos in the mask at the bottom?
Well, if you've been paying attention.
have it, Ben.
So-
Could you please explain it?
Who's Slipknot?
Slipknot, Mushroomhead, and Mudvayne, another side of new metal where they added the theatrics.
Hey, listen, there's a 5-part series on Slipknot.
There is.
Do not, if you
Yes.
swear to God you start talking anything about Slipknot, I will come over there and punch you in
Oh
the
no,
face.
no. But there is one band that was more unique out of this era. The 70s meet the 90s,
Alice in
as
Chains.
I call it.
The Reaper.
In 1985, White Zombie came out, combining psychedelic guitar sounds with the drums, Rob Zombie's unique vocal sets.
I know.
And this is actually White Zombie art. Actually, this is on their albums. I actually own them.
The nipples?
Yeah, those demon women. That's all over. That's
Oh, those are
right. That's
demon
the
women. I
signature.
just thought they were hookers.
What's the difference?
That's the band.
One of them getting money from you, the other one can't.
That's La Sexorista, the album that had Thunder Kiss in 1965,
that
and More
Sherry
Human
Moon?
Than Human.
I mean that.
No, that is not Sherry. That's his bass
cultural
player.
appropriation, like right there.
Uh,
That's what that is.
Yeah, it wouldn't be so bad if he didn't have the dreads.
Why does he look like Bob Marley? Like a white Bob Marley.
That's just Rob Zombie. I don't know, man.
Come on, Robert.
So anyway, by the early
Jesus
90s,
Christ, Bobby.
by the early 90s, White Zombie had become bigger, which was only because of Beavis and
Is
Butthead.
his last name really Zombie?
No.
What's his real last name?
Looking it
I
up
knew
right
it
now.
at one
Cummings.
point. Thank you. And his brother's
Bobby
the
Cummings.
White
his
Cummings.
brother's the lead
White
singer of
Cummings.
Power Man 5000.
I'm sorry, one more time. I was.
Rob Zombie's brother is the lead singer of Power Man 5000.
I don't know who that is either.
It's just the band Power Man 5000. Their singer is Rob Zombie's brother.
I just assumed that was. a
Rob
Super
took
Smash
the
Bros.
horror
character.
aspect, and then his brother was more into sci-fi, so he made Power Man. But anyway, so Beavis and Butthead aired Thunder Kiss in 1965.
Whoa.
And because of this, people got to know White Zombie, which exploded them out a bit more, made them a bigger thing. Unfortunately, I hate this part of Zombie's music history.
Because he was a piece of shit.
I hate to say it because I don't know the man. However, this whole story very much makes it seem like, yeah. Because they got big in the early 90s, and then by, as I have here, 95, 96, he tells the band, like, hey, guys, I just need some time to myself. Like, we'll figure something out for another album. I know we're doing big, but, like, we'll be fine. And then the man turned around and made Hellbilly Deluxe his first solo record, released it in 98, and never looked back.
Yeah.
Never told the band. He was just like, Rob Zombie now. And they said it's because, much like what you hear in Hellbilly Deluxe, he wanted more sound effects and horror sounds and things, and they didn't want to do that, so he said, fuck it, and went solo. Rob Zombie now.
Kind of dick had thing to do, Mr. Bobby Cummings.
I also hate his statement of that he will never bring White Zombie back because they're not knowable enough. I would argue that, Rob, because I know people who know the songs you've covered as yourself that were their songs, more like More Human Than Human or Thunder Kissin', or there's various songs he's covered from White Zombie's catalog, and I'm like, you've covered them yourself, and people still dance like you're fuck. I hate it.
It's because he has.
Sorry, I had to get that out. I just hate that that's a thing I learned, because it's like I didn't have any problem with Rob Zombie.
He became part of the machine.
It just that was so douchey.
Ow.
Theater kids plus music nerds plus art nerds equals
Weezer.
Tool.
Jared, no one has ever heard of a Tool song. No one knows Tool.
46 and 2. Zombie.
Jared's the only one that knows Tool songs.
Tool just doesn't exist.
Tool is amazing. Tool is great.
Say Anvil, but I don't know if.
But literally, these guys were all art majors, film industry people who were like moved to LA to try to look for careers in those paths. Ended up meeting each other, and in 1992, the band Tool was formed.
So
which is
did
these
they
guys.
just like have their whole blood as acid, or did they just
basically, yeah. It was literally just theater kids and shit, just being like, I want to get a job in this, and then they started and they met each other through mutual whatnots.
It was either this or working with a guy named Daniel Schneider.
Which, for anybody, like, much like they say Tool sucks, I would say they're really worthwhile for a live show, and I have a little thing here, because they have an entire back screen, lights, like, they literally go theater all out for their shows. Everything is a fucking spectacle on stage with them.
Performing.
Which is just a lot of fun. I'd love to see it. I haven't been able to, also because they just kind of go on hiatus all the time.
They're fucking old.
I mean, at this point now they are, yeah.
It's the freaking FCC.
Yes, the freaking FCC. So yeah, there was the whole artist versus the FCC. And the reason I bring this back up is because in 1991, Anthrax gave considerably my favorite album, and a lot of people argue is their favorite Anthrax album, which is Killer of the Bees. Attack of the Killer Bees. Sorry.
That's not what that said.
Yes, Attack of the Killer Bees, which had the song Starting Up a Posse, which is just literally an entire song about the artists, how they weren't going to let anyone come in and tell them, we can't make what the fuck we want to make. We're the artist, you buy it or don't, that's your choice. But the Attack of the Killer Bees became like their biggest hit album for them. So that's just a note of point there.
It's so bad.
Black and death metal, the other parts of metal here. The reason I bring them up is because I'm just happy to say Buffalo, New York has our boys, Cannibal Corpse. They started there. And in 1988, that was also part of the reason why music had to have a label of, like, it's offensive. Because, like, they were putting these records out. They're like, we should label that.
Jared, is this why you like metal music? Because Cannibal Corpse comes from Buffalo?
I mean, it's just a cool fact for me. Just because I hate Goo Goo Dolls and I don't like Journey. So knowing that there's a metal band, yeah.
I'm sorry. Fucking, excuse me?
We've talked about this a million times.
Yeah, but I don't pay attention to half the
don't like
shit.
the Goo Goo Dolls?
I mean, that one I'm fine with. But
Goo Goo
Journey...
Dolls also came from Buffalo. I don't like them. Journey was overplayed for me because we were so close to Rochester. So they played
what song was
nonstop.
overplayed? Just Don't Stop Believing comes on every 5 minutes. Doesn't mean they got
Come
no good...
to our part of New York. I swear to God, because they came from Rochester, every station, every hour has like a dedicated, like, here's your Journey, blah, 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 set list. And they'll just play Journey. And that's why I can't get into them anymore because I dealt with it too much growing up. Anyway. Anthony, you brought up, you brought up Sweden, but it's Norwegian black metal is where you have problems. I'm going to go over this real quick. There's probably many of you that have seen many things that have covered over this whole thing.
Not me.
There was a band called Mayhem. They were Norwegian black metal. They became a thing because, as they put it, American death metal, like Cannibal Corpse and whatnot, was grandma's music or music you put on at a prom. Real pussy shit, as the lead singer Euronymous put it.
A fun name, though, Euronymous.
So they end up doing their own thing. They're not, I will say, from everything I've seen and even I've heard, they're not good. They were just very good at making the controversy of, like, you guys suck, and we're great, and we look like dead people, so fuck you.
Infamy sells.
Euronymous wasn't the lead singer. He was a guitarist. Dead was actually the lead singer. Yes, his name's Dead. He went by Dead. He had a medical mental condition. He thought he was already dead. Like, literally that he was just a walking zombie person, and that at some point he would just die and go back to being dead again.
Isn't that life as it is, man?
He thought of that way so much so that Euronymous poked jokes at him a lot about it, but he did make some go unalive yourself jokes, which Dead ended up doing, which Euronymous walks in on the scene, doesn't tell anybody, and in fact took pieces of his skull and made necklaces for everybody and was like, we're real death metal, we're badasses. And everybody was like, you're fucked up. No, we're not wearing that, and we're going to go get the police now, because that's fucked up. He also took a picture of his body, and that was their album cover, because he thought, catchy. And
in Aqua Teen Hunger Force, probably like the West German metal band. What's it called? No.
Oh, God.
What is it called?
Aqua Teen Hunger Force metal band.
Thank you, Anthony.
Appreciate you.
Pole something,
Totem
I
Pole.
think.
Totem Pole.
God, how did I remember that? Can you list all the albums for us?
Oh,
Or
God.
who the bell tolls. That's the first time they didn't use the don't actually. It's fine. But like summon the trunk to sit on the pole.
But after a few years of followers,
Orgasm.
as I put it, these edgy cunts went even further, because they ended up replacing Dead with another guy, Vig.
Live.
A guy named Vig, who he already had controversy because he burned down churches all over Norway.
I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Whatever puts money on the table.
He joined the band, and then he ended up, committing an oh no on Euronymous. Basically invited him over, and then got into an argument with him about how to do the band, and then stabbed him over 23 times, and then tried to get away, and then was sent in prison.
I mean, same. I get it, man.
Which the most fucked up part of that is after Vig was released, he ended up releasing the album that him and Euronymous had worked on before the murder happened. And it ended up becoming what people have as the pinnacle point of what black metal should be, which is the most fucked up thing. Like, oh, this guy murdered the other guy, but like literally before he murdered him, they made what black metal fans consider the best album ever made. It's a whole thing. It's a fucked up history there, folks. Anyway, moving on.
I mean, it's kind of like how that one Jungle Force Power Ranger stabbed his roommate with a sword. And
I mean, yeah. But also because of the Norwegian death metal thing, that also reincites the whole satanic panic where people are like, metal music's bad, blah, blah. And it's literally because these guys were just fucking killing each other and literally burning churches because they wanted to be controversial. I don't know. They were edgy little fucking...
One bad banana.
It's true. So the early 2000s come in, and it becomes a wash for quote-unquote mainstream metal. This is because...
not everything Jared fights against.
2003 saw Metallica's most hated, and even I would say their worst album productionally, which is Saint Anger, which sounds like it was played on drum trash cans and in a just really bad garage or basement somewhere. Like, it doesn't sound like a professional band. It really, really rough. There are lyrical content in there, like, if they had reworked it, could have worked. But that album as a whole, not their best work. Got people really shitting on them. But it was the same way for all the other metal bands. Coming out of the 90s, there were a lot of them that just weren't doing that great, because Megadeth tried to do what Metallica was doing with Load and Reload, and people hate those albums too, because it's like, you're getting too commercially, like, the solos are real fucking generic, is how people put it. So it was rough. But that means that metal was headed back underground. Much like it usually is, just because we're all a bunch of outcasts in metal, and we just don't like people.
Yes, we're all individuals.
Well, not all of us, but, they're the ones like me. Like, we just...
Paul.
We don't do, I don't know, public. Anyway, late 90s and early 2000s, we get breaks from the underground with bands that people may know. Maybe. Anyway, from the California underground scene, we have the small Armenian group System of a Down that came out.
Why'd you have to bring up they were Armenian?
Yeah, that's
because that's a very prominent part of who they are. Like, very prominent of who they are is they are Armenian. They put out their debut album in 1998. Their whole thing is songs that are anti-religion, anti-war, genocide awareness of the Armenian people, which is something people have no fucking clue when they listen to their albums, but like a lot of it is literally just like, hey, our people are murdered a lot. And Serj Tankian, as a more recent update, he's been getting asked about why is he so vocal about genocide and things, and his point to it is, quote from Serj Tankian, I feel that if you're an artist and you have the platform you do to reach millions of people, if you're not doing something to be an activist in the world for good, then you're wasting the fucking pedestal you're being put on.
Damn straight.
So he's very, very, very active in anything that goes on in that nature. He's a good guy. Like, he's seriously a great guy.
And then they want to name a song Suicide, told they couldn't.
yeah. Chop Suey was supposed to be named Suicide, and then they were like, no, and they just named it Chop Suey because that was the quickest name they could put to get the album out. Then there was also 1997. We get Burn the Priest, as they were originally called. They put out their debut album from Virginia's underground metal scene.
It's Virginia.
But after being picked up by the label Prosthetic Records, this band would relabel themselves as Lamb of God and start what would become known as the American Heavy Metal Front. Why it's called that, I couldn't tell you. Looking into metal things, the way people categorize, people argue with each other all the time about why it's called that. And
no, they don't.
Whatever. It's annoying, Anthony. Trust me. Trying to look into specifics for things drove me fucking nuts because it's contradicted by everybody. Anyway, but Lamb of God, they're another huge metal band that's around now. But they came out of that underground scene when, like I said, Metallica, Megadeth, and things weren't putting out the best albums. A lot of other music was getting more popular. But I mean, there were still System of a Down, Slipknot, things like that. Lamb of God came out around this time. Then we also had the 2000s Georgia underground scene, where my band Mastodon came out, which were just a bunch of guys who like to party together, and then we're like, hey, you're really good at guitar. Hey, you're really good at guitar. And then they made a band, and Mastodon
Dude,
became
that's kind of how the Wiggles were formed.
Also in the year
actually
2000.
the exact opposite of how Flies have done this. My short-lived garage band from high school.
You were both like, we can't play instruments.
That's
Let's do
exactly
it.
what it was. He got a bass guitar, I got a guitar. It was a match made in heaven.
Now, back over into California in the 2000s, we get into what's called the metalcore scene, which the best way to describe metalcore is take punk and screamo, combine it into one, and you've got metalcore. But this underground scene over in Cali, on Venice Beach, you get Avenged Sevenfold.
M7X.
And their first album, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet, was very much metalcore screamo, and not anything like anyone would know of them now. Sounding the Seventh Trumpet was not a well-known album, mainly because it sounds fucking nothing like what
That's
they
a
are.
Bible reference.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. They were a Christian metal band when they started. Literally, that is a literal thing, my friend. And fun fact for you at home, if you don't know, Sinister Gates' dad is Guitar Man.
Is that like Power Man 5000?
Do you all remember Bill Engvall and Jeff Foxworthy? They'd have the Guitar Man. Go over to the Guitar Man and he'd play some notes.
Oh, yeah.
I think Anthony recognized, or maybe he's just saying it to be nice.
How am I the most fucking hick one here who like watched the blue collar comedy tour religiously.
I'm from the military city,
and like
I know who I'm saying Guitar Man. His son.
Guitar Man.
Maybe we could be like, hey, play this.
Literally from those guys. I'm pretty sure it was one of the shows that either Bill Engvall or Jeff Foxworthy had. They had Guitar Man. That was a whole fucking thing.
Like how stand-up comedies have their band. They would just be like, hey,
Listen, I get I'm not denying the house band, okay? I just don't...
Guitar Man, he's a thing. You fucking look it up. That is a thing.
Don't
anyway,
swear at me.
Sinister Gates. Sinister Gates is his son, which was always a neat fact for me. That just, I don't know, for whatever reason, that his son became such a big metal.
Guitar Man's a song by Bread.
Yes, it is.
Anyway... another fun fact for them is they're owned by a WB studio, which is why they're usually in Call of Duty games, because studios exchange things all the time, and because they're with WB, they just have an in for video games.
Oh, he's the guy who does Ahmed's Christmas song.
Thank you.
Guitar guy!
You said Jeff Foxworthy. It's Jeff Dunham.
It's not the blue collar comedy tour. It's the man with the puppets.
I don't know. You
Yeah,
have to fact check me.
I know Guitar Guy.
Have to fact check me if that's the right man. Just
Fucking,
because
what do you mean? He's got a photo with the fucking puppet.
Because if
It's
it is,
fine, just eat crow, bud.
Papa Gates.
thank you. Okay, so it is. Okay,
Yeah,
then
no.
yes. Okay, thank you.
This musician of Avenged Sevenfold.
Yes, thank you. All right. I thought it was like the Bill Engvall thing. I just got it. Yeah, I got my.
I
got
know
my wires
Guitar
crossed.
Guy. He does the night. Yeah, it's great.
Okay,
It's funny.
thank you. So everybody does know.
God
Okay.
damn.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Sim Gates,
Eat
their lead
crow,
guitarist.
bitch.
That's his son. Then you get into 2004. As I said, we've already done a whole Pantera series, but this was something that affected venues themselves. Because in December 2004, Dimebag Darrell, while performing with the second band when Pantera broke up, was shot on stage by a fucking maniac, as well as, I think, about 7 other people who tried to help him also got shot and killed because the dude was just a fucking psychopath. But this, again, it changed how venues did things. Like, now that's why security is such a fucking pain in the ass. Is like, yeah, there was a dude who just walked up and fucking unloaded on the guitarist and fucking killed him. So, like,
Man,
yeah,
Jared,
they're a bit
are you
strict.
saying that if a gun hurts people, we should take proper measures and make sure it doesn't happen
No,
again?
Jared's too
We
redneck
should.
to say that. He's saying he shouldn't be allowed to have guns in.
Jared says get rid of guns 2024.
Don't
Jared says
say
get rid of guns.
anything. So,
Get on a t-shirt.
now to end this whole thing out, what is modern metal? How is it contributed? How has it evolved from where everything started? So,
Goat's milk.
no, it's actually weird because I've looked at it as Sabbath, Maiden, and Priest when they started were very influenced by the things that came before them. So your Hendrix, your Cream, whatnot. Then when you got into the 90s, you got like Korn, Slipknot, Mudvayne, all these bands that were incorporating the hip-hop in the culture of the 90s. And then even the 80s with like the hair metal, all the bands started to try to copy that. Or Metallica setting the basis for heavy metal. Like, there's always some kind of fall-through. However, metal music in the more modern sense of nowadays, bands that are coming out now, they don't follow that same thing. It's actually kind of weird to me. Because instead of following, say, because like hip-hop, like Taylor Swift, things like that are still really big. So you'd think that metal would do like another new metal wave, right?
No.
It has gone the opposite direction. You've gotten like almost like death metal on a more digestible palate for people. That is where metal is going now, and it's so weird. It's a complete, what do you call that? Anti-culture or whatever.
Yeah.
We're the opposite. It's weird to me that's the way it's gone. It's not copying what's popular like it always has. It's actually going very fucking opposite. So
Yeah. Well, if I've learned anything from this, is that people saw metal as against the system, but it was just always just following on what there was before them. And what happens is, have you ever heard of the term Flanderization?
Yeah. The Flanders.
Go for it. Go ahead.
Experience.
So Flanderization, what happens is, you have a character, Ned Flanders. He was kind of religious. Well, then people came onto the show and used their experience of what Ned Flanders was to change him a little bit. And then new people came on and then changed it a little bit. And then we got, all-powerful God-man Ned Flanders.
Okay.
It's just basically kind of what happened, where the idea of metal being anti-establishment, anti-culture, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It, from what you said, it hasn't really been that. It's been stepping on the shoulders of each other. Like, you're working with each other instead of just doing your own thing. But in the media, in the idea of metal, it's fuck everyone.
I mean, and there's definitely those tones. I mean, I won't tell you that that's not tones that come out of metal. But metal as a community is weird. Just because, like, if you ever go to a show and you're in a mosh pit,
I never play. I am almost.
I have been, but there's always one douchebag. Like, anywhere you go, there's always going to be one. But for the most part, it is very much everyone looking out for each other. Like, yeah, there's people throwing elbows. Yes, there's people who get their nose broken. Yada yada. But at the end of the day, if somebody really, really gets hurt, like, bands themselves stop shows because they don't want to see shit happen. Which is part of the thing of being a front man in a metal band, is you have to be able to watch the crowd because you are the one who's going to see if shit goes down. So no, I'm just saying, like, musically wise, it's weird to me that it's gone the route that it has, where it's like this weird death metal meets black metal meets modern metal mix that's the new thing. Which is just weird because, like, things like Cannibal Corpse and whatnot have never been, like, the big popular hit. But, like, that's the kind of shit that's getting the main popular hits now. They should just call it allied metal. That's a good picture. But that's my presentation. Also, MGK, I can't with you. I'm not talking about your whole fucking try to come into metal. You get the fuck out of here.
As he mentions it.
So yeah, that's that. You know. Also, the 90s are coming back because bands that were in the 90s are all making comebacks now, and it's strange for me being.
It's called nostalgia, baby.
Yeah, I suppose so.
It's fucking great.
But that's that. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always feel free to you email us oddcastmedia@gmail.com.
Jared will give you you can call Jared and you can talk about metal with him for hours.
I will talk to you about it. I enjoy talking about things that I enjoy. It doesn't even have to be metal. You could just talk to me about, like, Beastie Boys. You could talk about Ziggy. Fun fact, Beastie Boys were also going to be a metal band, but then they realized they didn't have the chops for that and ended up being what they were just because they met the right people. But, yeah.
For the better.
I would say so, yeah. Yeah, no, they were going to be a metal band, and then it was just one of those, like, we're not cut out for that. So, like, Beastie Boys changed direction real quick. So... but Anthony, any final thoughts?
No, I don't really have any. I'm glad that you were able to finish this because you've been talking about this for months. And
Yes, I know. I've been talking about it for months, and it was originally going to go a completely different way, and then I just chopped it all down because I was rabbit holing myself into certain things, and I was like, I'm not going to get to what I'm trying to get to. So, yeah, Michael.
No, got nothing for you, man.
All right. Also, W Energy emailed me. They have new canned energy, so go check that out. Use our promo code. It's in the link. You can get 10% off. But apparently
it's delicious.
They have 2 flavors right now. The guy founder emailed me. He has more flavors, but he wants to make sure it'll sell. So go check that out.
It's actually not bad. I said this.
Oh no, I tried it.
It's
actually
not decent. It's not for me. I don't need that kind of shit. You're not I'm not an energy drink person.
I see those cases of ghosts.
Under the bed. I'm waiting for it to evaporate so I can turn the fan. I'll just bring them over to you. You'll drink them. Back when I thought I was going to be cool and healthy, drink energy drinks on the way to the gym in the morning. That didn't happen.
That's like fucking the worst thing you could drink before.
No, Ghost is good for you. It's not electrolyte. It's a plant seed.
So that's great. But yeah, follow us at Oddcast Net on the screen. Oddcast Media, like I said. Oddcast Network on Facebook, Instagram, and What an Oddcast on TikTok. We have things that go up there all the time.
Jared does his funnies and his thinkies there sometimes.
I post things that I think are funny. Usually it's things that Anthony sends me that make me laugh, and I'm just like, stupid, and I post it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.